I built a bakery with my sister. We shared every recipe, every dream, and every dollar. Then one morning I showed up, and my key didn't fit. She had taken everything, the shop, the name, even my recipes. I lost my business, my savings, and my trust. But I didn't fight her. I waited. Years later, she came begging for help, and she never realized I was the one controlling her supply chain. This is how I got my revenge, one cupcake at a time. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more true and untold stories, where pain turns into power, and truth always finds its way. I still remember the smell of fresh cinnamon rolls that morning. It filled our little bakery on Oak Avenue, wrapping around me like a promise. Sweet Haven was finally open. It was mine and my sister Monica's dream come true. I was the one who baked, mixed, and decorated. She handled the money, suppliers, and all the boring things I didn't care to understand. Together we made it work, or at least that's what I thought back then. When customers walked in, I greeted them with a smile and flowers still on my hands. I loved watching their faces light up as they tasted something new. Some days I stayed up all night trying to perfect a recipe, and when it came out right, I felt like the world was clapping just for me. Monica was different. She was good with people, but not in the same way. She liked being seen. She liked her name in the paper, her photo in interviews, her voice on the local radio talking about our bakery. The first time Sweet Haven got featured in the newspaper, I was so excited. I ran to the counter holding that folded page, but my excitement faded as I read the headline. Monica Lee's Sweet Haven, a local bakery with heart. My name wasn't there. Not even once. When I asked her about it, she laughed and said, "It's just easier if they talk to one person, Alicia. You don't like cameras anyway." She was right. I didn't. I was happy behind the counter, behind the oven, behind everything. So I let it go. We celebrated our 1-year anniversary with a small cake I made myself. 2 candles, just us. To Sweet Haven, I said, and to us. Monica smiled and clinked her cup against mine. To us. Her smile looked warm, but I see it differently now when I think back. It wasn't pride. It was victory. I was too blind to notice that she was already building something behind my back. About 3 months later, Monica started spending more time outside the bakery. She said she was meeting new investors. She always came back talking fast, saying things like, "We could go big, Alicia. Franchises, suppliers, partnerships." I just smiled and told her I was proud of her. I didn't realize she was building a future that didn't include me. One afternoon, while she was out, I went into the office to grab the invoice book. That's when I saw some papers lying on the desk. I picked them up and froze. At the top it said business ownership and registration transfer. Below, I saw Monica's name listed as the sole owner of Sweet Haven. My name was gone, completely. When she came back later, I asked her about it. "Monica, what's this? Why does it say you're the only owner?" She smiled, not even flinching. "Oh, that. It's just easier to manage taxes and legal things under one name. The lawyer said it's fine. We're sisters, Alicia. Don't worry, you know I'd never do you wrong." And I believed her. I actually believed her. I told myself I was overreacting. I told myself I didn't understand legal stuff anyway. The next few weeks felt different. She hired 2 new people without asking me. She changed our supplier. She said it was to cut costs. When I complained that the new ingredients made the pastries taste different, she rolled her eyes. "It's just sugar, Alicia. Customers can't tell the difference. You focus on baking, I'll focus on business." So I did. Then came a huge catering deal for a corporate event. Monica handled all the contracts. And I worked non-stop for 2 nights baking cakes, cookies, and pastries. My hands were swollen from mixing dough. But when I saw the crowd enjoying our food, it felt worth it. The next morning, Monica came in with a newspaper and tossed it on the counter. "Look at that, sis." We made it again. The headline read, "Monica Lee's Sweet Haven impresses corporate clients." It felt like someone had thrown cold water on me. My name wasn't there again. Not even once. That night I stayed late, sitting in the dark bakery. The machines were off, the smell of sugar fading away. I stared at the empty chairs and wondered how my own sister could forget me so easily. But I told myself it was fine. Maybe it didn't matter whose name was printed, as long as the business grew. Still, deep down, something started to change inside me that night. It wasn't anger yet, just a quiet pain that whispered, "She's not telling you everything." I didn't know it then, but my sister had already set the trap, and I was standing right in the middle of it. The day Monica asked me to sign those papers felt so normal that I never saw it coming. The bakery smelled like vanilla and cinnamon. The morning crowd had just left, and the sun was shining through the window blinds. painting lines of light across the counter. Monica sat with her laptop open and a folder of documents beside her. She looked tired but confident. "Alicia," she said, "these are just legal things we need for the business license. Nothing major. You can sign them now so we don't miss the filing deadline." I remember wiping my hands on my apron, my fingers still sticky from frosting. I didn't read much. I trusted her. She was my sister after all. We had built this dream together from scratch. I asked her once just to be sure. "This is for both of us, right?" She looked me straight in the eye and smiled. "Of course, it's our bakery." That smile still haunts me sometimes. I signed every page and went back to work. I spent the rest of that day preparing new pastries, experimenting with fillings, laughing with our customers. Everything felt right. Over the next few weeks, Monica started handling all the financial matters. I let her. She enjoyed control, and I enjoyed creating. She was the planner, I was the artist. That's what made us work. Or so I thought. Sometimes she would take business calls in private or leave early, saying she had meetings with investors. I didn't question her. I thought she was doing it for both of us. But small signs started to show. She changed the social media pages. The bakery's Instagram bio no longer said founded by Alicia and Monica. It now read founded by Monica Lewis. When I asked her about it, she brushed it off. People remember one name better. It's just marketing. I laughed, pretending it didn't hurt. But deep down, I felt something shift. I didn't know it yet, but that was the day my name began to disappear. One paper, one post, one smile at a time. It happened on a bright Friday morning, the kind that used to make me feel alive. I woke up early, excited to test a new lemon tart recipe I'd been perfecting for weeks. I packed my ingredients and drove to the bakery like always. But when I arrived, something felt wrong. The door was locked. My key didn't fit. I tried again, twisting harder, my heart beating faster. Then I saw a notice taped to the glass. It said, "Under new management." For a few seconds I couldn't breathe. I thought maybe there was a mistake. Maybe we were renovating or rebranding. But when I looked through the window, I saw new boxes inside. New staff uniforms stacked neatly on the counter, and a man I didn't recognize walking around like he owned the place. I called Monica. No answer. I called again and again until finally she picked up. Her voice was calm. "Alicia, I was going to talk to you, but things moved faster than expected." I said, "What are you talking about? Why is the bakery locked? Why is there a sign saying new management?" She sighed like she was tired. "Alicia, you signed over the rights to me months ago. Those papers gave me full ownership. I didn't want to tell you until things were official." My throat went dry. "You made me sign those papers. You lied to me." She didn't sound guilty at all. "It's not lying. It's business. You're too soft for this world. I carried this place financially. You just bake." I felt my hands shaking. "You think you can erase me like I never existed?" She said quietly. "You'll thank me someday. You'll see I did what had to be done." Then she hung up. I stood there, staring at the closed door that once opened to everything I loved. People passing by looked at me with curiosity, maybe even pity. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Inside that bakery were my recipes, my dreams, my years of hard work, all stolen by the one person I trusted most. I drove home and sat in silence for hours. I couldn't eat, couldn't think, couldn't even cry. When the night finally came, I broke down. I screamed into a pillow so the neighbors wouldn't hear. I kept repeating one line over and over. She was my sister. That was the moment I learned. Something about betrayal, it doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the people who say they love you. But somewhere, deep under all that pain, a small voice whispered again, "Don't beg. Don't fight. Wait. Your time will come." I started baking again in my small apartment kitchen. At first it was just therapy. I baked when I was sad, when I couldn't sleep, when I missed who I used to be. But slowly I started sharing photos of my creations online. I didn't use my real name. I created a new brand, Crumb and Soul. No photos of me. Just pictures of cookies, cupcakes, and short posts telling small stories about each recipe. The first post said, "Baked by someone who lost everything, but never lost her love for sugar." It got 10 likes, then 50, then hundreds. People commented things like, "This story feels real, and I can taste the emotion." Every recipe I posted had a piece of my truth hidden in it. One cookie was called the Betrayal Bite. Another was Second Chance's Cupcake. People started relating to the emotion behind the food. Within 6 months, I had enough followers to start taking small orders. I baked all night and shipped during the day. My apartment smelled like vanilla and hope again. One morning, I received an email from a popular food blogger who wanted to feature Crumb and Soul in her online magazine. I agreed, without revealing my real identity. The article went viral. Orders flooded in. I started making real money for the first time in years. While packing boxes one night, I saw a news story pop up on my phone. It was Monica again, talking about Sweet Haven's next expansion. She was smiling, confident, untouchable. But what caught my attention was a detail in the article. Sweet Haven's supplier had changed recently, and customers were complaining about lower quality and delayed deliveries. That night, I sat in silence, staring at the screen. It wasn't just nostalgia or jealousy anymore. It was an opportunity. I whispered to myself. She took everything from me. Now it's my turn. For the first time in years, I didn't feel broken. I felt focused. And for the first time, my revenge had a plan. Starting over felt impossible at first. The apartment I lived in was small. Barely enough space for a table and a tiny oven. But that night when I picked up the whisk again, something inside me clicked. I spread flour on the counter and started mixing butter and sugar like I used to. My arms ached. My hands trembled. But for the first time in months, I felt alive. The first batch of cookies came out too salty. The second too sweet. By the third, I found balance. Not in the recipe, but in my soul. It became a ritual. Every night after work, I baked. Sometimes I cried while stirring the batter. Sometimes I talked to myself like I was comforting a child. I kept thinking about Mom, how she used to say, "When life burns your bread, make toast." That's how my healing began, one tray at a time. I started posting small videos online using my phone. No fancy setup, just a table, a bowl, and my voice saying things like, "This is what rebuilding looks like." People connected with it. Comments started coming in. Some said my story gave them hope. Others shared how they'd lost everything too, and were trying again. That's when I created my new name, Crumb and Soul. It felt right. Because that's what I was. Just crumbs of my old life, stitched together with soul. Soon orders started to appear. Neighbors, then strangers. I baked through the nights, slept for a few hours, and delivered in the morning before work. When I passed by Monica's new franchise one day, I saw her face on a local magazine. She was smiling, calling herself the face of success. I smiled too, not out of anger but out of clarity. Because now I understood. Her victory wasn't my loss anymore. 2 years passed like that. Quietly, steadily, and honestly. My brand, Crumb and Soul, had grown from a kitchen table to a rented baking studio. One afternoon, I got a catering request for a small community event. It wasn't big money, but it was big to me. As I was setting up, I overheard 2 cafe owners talking. They said Sweet Haven franchises were struggling. One of them mentioned how customers complained about bland taste and delayed supplies. Something inside me stirred, not joy, but curiosity. I began looking deeper. Late at night, I sat at my computer researching Sweet Haven's structure. Vendors, suppliers. It turned out Monica's company had expanded too fast. She had cut corners. Then one night, I saw a notice online. The main supplier of baking ingredients Monica relied on was for sale. The owner was retiring. I stared at the screen for a long time. My heart was pounding. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about balance. I invested every dollar I had saved and bought the company under a quiet new name, Haven Foods. The irony of the name made me smile. Over the next few months, I managed it quietly. I didn't change anything right away, just ensured quality came first. Slowly, Sweet Haven began to feel the pressure of delays. Their franchises started to crumble under stress. Meanwhile, my brand kept rising. I got new orders every week, mostly through word of mouth. My kitchen smelled like butter and healing. One evening, I stood in my baking studio, holding a warm tray of muffins. I whispered to myself, "This is how you rise." Quietly, with purpose. I wasn't chasing her downfall anymore. I was chasing my peace. One morning, while checking emails, I received an invitation. It was from the annual local business awards committee. They wanted to honor Crumb and Soul as new business of the year. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. I read the email twice to make sure it was real. Then I smiled. Not because I wanted fame, but because this recognition meant I had built something honest from nothing. The event was going to be held at a city convention center. When I arrived that night, the place looked like a dream. Lights, banners, cameras flashing, everyone dressed elegantly. I walked in quietly and took a seat in the second row. My heart started beating faster when I saw her, Monica. She was sitting at the front table with her new business partners. Her face looked tired, her smile forced. Sweet Haven had been nominated too, but I could tell things weren't going well. During the speeches, my name was called. Crumb and Soul, winner of the New Business of the Year award. I stood up slowly. The applause felt distant, like an echo. I walked up to the stage. When I turned toward the audience, my eyes met Monica's. Her expression froze. She looked confused at first, then shocked. I took the microphone and said, "When life takes your recipe away, bake a new one. When people take credit for your work, start again, quietly, patiently, and with soul." The audience clapped. I didn't mention her name. I didn't need to. She knew. I could see tears forming in her eyes. After the event, Monica came up to me in the hallway. Her voice cracked. "Alicia, I didn't know it was you behind Crumb and Soul." I looked at her calmly and said, "You didn't need to know. You already taught me everything. How to lose and how to rebuild." I walked away without turning back. For the first time in years, I felt light. Revenge didn't feel like victory. It felt like peace. A few weeks after the award ceremony, I drove past my old bakery for the first time in years. The building that once smelled like cinnamon and laughter now looked lifeless. The bright pink Sweet Haven sign was faded and cracked. Inside, I could see empty shelves and a dusty counter. I parked the car and sat there quietly. Memories flooded in. I could still picture the first day Monica and I opened the shop. She wore her favorite red blazer and told me, "We're going to be unstoppable." I smiled back then because I believed her. Now all that was left was silence. I got out and walked closer to the window. A for lease sign hung on the glass. Sweet Haven had finally shut down. I didn't cheer. I didn't even feel happy. What I felt was something else. Closure. Monica had lost everything she built by taking shortcuts. I had rebuilt myself by starting small and staying true. We both played the same game, but with different hearts. That night she called me. I hesitated before picking up. Her voice was quiet and broken. "Alicia, I'm not calling to fight. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." I didn't say anything for a while. The sound of her crying on the other end made me remember our childhood. Two sisters baking cookies with our mom, laughing when we spilled flour everywhere. I finally spoke. "You didn't just hurt me, Monica. You hurt both of us. You lost a sister for a business." She whispered, "I know. And I'd give anything to undo it." I sighed. "We can't go back, but we can stop blaming. I forgave you long ago." That's how I moved on. There was silence. Then she said softly, "You deserve all of this. You always did." After the call ended, I sat on my balcony watching the city lights. I realized revenge hadn't destroyed her. Her choices did. I didn't need to finish her off. Life already did that for me. A year later, Crumb and Soul had grown into a small but beloved brand. I hired 3 young bakers and opened a cozy bakery downtown. No flashy signs, no giant ads, just the smell of fresh bread and the sound of real laughter. Every morning, I arrived early, brewed coffee, and looked out the window as the sun touched the front sign that said, "Crumb and Soul, baked from the heart." Customers would walk in smiling. Not because of fame or marketing, but because they could feel something genuine in the air. One day, an elderly woman came in holding her granddaughter's hand. She said, "We came all the way from another town just to try your muffins. My granddaughter said they taste like hope." I smiled. That's exactly the recipe. After she left, I sat down with a cup of coffee and opened my old recipe notebook. On the last page, I wrote something new. Sometimes you don't have to fight the people who wronged you. Just outgrow them. That night, I thought about Monica again. She had moved away and started a small cafe by herself. I heard it wasn't doing great, but she was baking again. And somehow that gave me peace too, because deep down I didn't want her destroyed. I just wanted her to understand what real work, honesty, and humility feel like. Maybe now she did. As I closed the shop for the night, I looked at the warm glow of the sign one last time. The air smelled like sugar and redemption. I whispered to myself, it's never about revenge. It's about rebuilding what they tried to break. Then I turned off the lights and walked out with a quiet smile. The past no longer owned me. The pain had turned into purpose. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't baking for others. I was baking for me.